Hi everyone. Today I'm going to show you how to work with Weather API in React. I'm going to create a custom hook to retrieve weather data. I will mostly concentrate on working with API calls using Axios and React Query. Let's take a look at the design. As you can see, we'll have input, search button, and the weather data. We'll have data for current weather and some forecast data. And I'm going to refresh my page. And when we don't have city, we have weather for current location. And current location is retrieved from the browser coordinates from navigator geolocation object. And now I can provide city and press search. And as you can see, we have a weather for Berlin and some forecast. And now I'm going to open developer tools and go to network tab, refresh my page. And as you can see, two requests were sent for my current location. And let's provide some city name. And as you can see, two more requests were sent, and we retrieved the data. And I'm going to change city and check weather for London. And we got two more requests, but now I'm going to return to Berlin. And as you can see, requests weren't sent. That's because I'm using a React query and caching and using stale data from my previous request. And let's go to the API and check what we have. I'm going to use openweathermap.org, and I created account to get my API keys. You can check the site and check APIs. Also, you have some services. I'm using free plan. You can check what is available. And for free plan, we have 60 calls per minute and 1 million calls every month. And we have 3-hour forecast for 5 days. And I'm going to use current weather and 3-hour forecast. If you build application, you will need to create your own API key. And also, I'm going to use documentation and make calls to current weather and 5-day, 3-hour forecast. And so let's go to the code. I launched my Visual Studio Code and opened Weather App project that I started to build in the previous video. I'll remind you that I added use geolocation hook to retrieve coordinates from the browser. And let's check what we have. We have just your coordinates header and the current coordinates. And now I'm going to add functionality that fetches the data from an API and add some basic JSX and styles to show the data. Let's open our docs, TenStack query, and I'm going to add this package. And I'm going to open my terminal, top dev server, install React query, and also I need Axios to make API calls. And now I'm going to open up JSX and go to docs and copy this import because we need to create client. Now I can create query client and use it in my application. I'm going to add it here. Yes, return adding JSX, and we need some query client provider. And also we need to close this tag. Okay, and let's start our dev server. pm run dev. Okay, and probably I have some error. Let's check the code. Okay, I need return here. Return JSX. Let's check. Okay, we have our coordinates, and we can build our application. And now I'm going to create new hook, custom hook, and we'll name it use fetch weather JavaScript. Okay, and let's build our hook. And I'm going to port it. It will be a function and name use fetch weather. Okay, and inside this hook, I'm going to use query for our package, and now I need some data. Use query will provide me the data, and I'm going to use object destructuring and get data and some error, and also loading is loading. And we need to define use query, and I'm going to just copy paste this code and provide query key will be weather, and query function we need to implement some function, and let's name it fetch weather, and add by coordinate cards. And we need to provide our geodata, and I'm going to add parameter to my use fetch weather and add here geodata, and I can add this data to query key, and also will pass it to my function fetch weather by coordinates and add geodata. And now let's add our code for fetch of the function for fetch weather by coordinates, and I'm going to create new folder. It will be services, and add new file API JavaScript, and we'll implement here our function that will make API calls. And I need to add export const fetch weather by cards, and it will be async arrow function, and we'll pass here geodata, and we need to make API call to our API. And let's check if not geodata, and if it don't have latitude, or it doesn't have longitude, then we will just return. Okay, and if we have data, we can make API call to our API, and let's define API. I'm going to add const weather API, and let's check docs, and I'm going to use current weather data API docs, and we have this API weather, and we can define it as URL, and let's define URL for current weather and add URL, and I'm going to use my weather URL and add weather to it. Okay, and now we can import Axios. Import Axios. Axios. And now we can make access get provide current weather URL, and now we need to pass params. And let's check what we need to provide to URL. We need latitude, longitude, and we need our app ID. And for app ID, I added to my env local file API key, and I created local file in order not to push my changes to Git and not share secret. And when I change the secret, it will not be pushed, and so I'll keep it privately. And here I'm going to create some variable to get my API key from this env, vita-env. And I'm going to use const API key and use import meta env and provide my name. Okay, and as params, we're going to provide app ID, and it will be my API key. Okay, and I need to add object here. And also I'm going to provide a lot, and we have in geodata latitude, and also we need, let's check out we need along, and it will be geodata longitude. And also I'm going to add units to retrieve the data in Celsius metric, but you can use Fahrenheit if you want. So, and now we can add a weight and save a response to some variable. Let me do it, const response. And now I'm going to make console log response and return my response. Okay, we have our response, and we need to return this data from our use fetch weather hook. Let's do it. Return, and we'll return data error, and it's loading. And now we can go to our component. We have a weather component here, and I'm going to get data from my use fetch weather. And I'm going to make it const use data, and also error, and error I'm going to rename to API error, and is loading. So have is loading, and I'll rename it to API loading. And now we can use our fetch weather hook and provide our geodata to it. And we have geodata from our use geolocation hook. And let's add some code to it. I think I can remove this coordinates, code from coordinates. Let's save and check what we have so far. I'm going to refresh the page and check network, and we don't have any request. Let's check use. Okay, I forgot to import this function. And let's save and check what we have so far. Okay, we have our request to weather API. I'm going to refresh, and we retrieved the data, and we can check what we have. We have coordinates inside, and also we have main, and as you can see, we have temp and temp max, temp min, and other values that are described here. You can check the whole response example, and the meaning of each value. And let's add some JSX to our code. I'm going to check if data, and add some value JSX. I need JSX, and I can add div, and also close this div, and provide some value. Let it be. We need probably some h2 tag, and provide current weather or and get our name from the data, and okay, let's try data, and let's check what we have inside. We have name. Let's try name. Okay, and let's check. Okay, we have our value, and let's change the name and get this data from our response. Okay, we can change it here, and now I'm going to return let's return current weather and use response data. And now here we can extract this current weather from our data. And if we don't have data, let's try empty object. And now we can use our variable instead of this data and provide here current weather, and let's check. Okay, we have our text, and I'm going to add more JSX. Let's add some styles. Actually, we can remove this class names for this div. I'll just leave empty div. Also, we can remove this. And let's add styles to h2 tag. And it will have class name. Let that be bigger text. Excel. And also add font and bold. And add some margin from bottom too. And let's add some temperature. I'm going to use paragraph and provide this value. And I'm going to use math round. So we get my value from current weather. And I need code here. So let's check what I have. We can also check console log. And we have data, and we have mine, and we have temp. Okay, and, I'm going to use current weather, mine, temp. Okay, let's check. And we have our temperature. Let's add some degree and also Celsius. And we can add some description. And let's check where we have description. And we have main, we have weather array, and we have description in the first item. And let's provide description. And I'm going to add code, provide current weather, it's array, first element, and use description. And let's check. Okay, we have our Celsius and our description. Let me add some styles. Class name will be capitalized. And let's add some styles for our degrees. And let's add some bigger text to Excel and add font bold. Okay, and let me add some styles for our container, and I'm going to add some margin from button and make text. And let's check what we have so far. Okay, we have our degrees and our description. Okay, I can hide this terminal, and let's build search input and search button. I'm going to add JSX, and I'll use form tag, and inside form we'll have input. Okay, and let's add some input. We'll have type text, and also we can add placeholder and provide enter city name, and let's add some classes, gradient 2, and add border, and let's make border gray, and add value, and make it rounded. Okay, and now we need to provide some value, and for that I need to add use state. And I'm going to use state hook. Import was added, and initial value will be empty string. And now I'll add const, and use state returns array of value and function, and I'll use name city, and the function will be set city. And now we can provide this value to our input. Value will be city, and we need some function to on change, and I'll implement function will take event and add city to value from my input, and this value will be inside event target value. Okay, and also we need to add button, and let's make it type submit, and we'll add submit event handler, and let's add class name, and add marginal left margins 2, and add padding 2, and make background blue, and add 500, and make text white, and make it round. And we need to add text button search. Okay, I'm going to save and check. Okay, we have our enter city name input, and I can add some name, but it's not working now because we haven't added any functionality. And let's implement some event handler for form, on submit form, and on submit I'll use function and provide function handle search. And let's implement this function. And, it will be arrow function const. I'll take event and use event prevent default behavior to stop reloading as a page. And we need one more state variable with hook use state with empty string, and this will be value for our query. And we'll set query after user pressed this search button. And I'm going to use search query name, and function will be set search query, and I need to assign it. Okay, and now we can check if we have city, and we can remove all spaces, and then we can set the value of the city to our query that search query and use city and remove all the spaces. Okay, and let's make console log city equals city, and let's check what we have. I'm going to refresh the page, open console log, and we got data from the server, and I'm going to provide city name, and we have it in our console. And let's add functionality to fetch data by city name. I'm going to open my services API and just copy this function, fetch weather by coordinates, and change it to fetch weather by city. And here I'll provide search query, and we can check if we don't have search query, then we can just return. And we need one more URL, and let's check documentation. And for city, I'm going to use this built-in geocoder. We can actually use geocoder API, make a call with city name and retrieve coordinates, and then make call with our coordinates. But we have functionality that allows us to just use city name and get weather data, and I'm going to use it. So, and we need to provide query, and it will be the same, but we'll change the params, and so for now we don't need this probably. And let me change. It will be weather URL, and instead of coordinate, I'm going to provide my search query, and current weather will be the same. And we need to change our custom hook, and also here we'll expect the same search query. Okay, and we need to change query key to check if we had search query. If we have, then we'll use this query. Otherwise, we'll use geodata, and we need more. Okay, and also we need to change query function. Also, I'm going to check if we have this search value. Then I'm going to fetch weather by city, weather by city, and provide my search value. And otherwise, I'll use fetch weather by coordinates. And also, we need to add enabled and check if we have coordinates or search query. Then our use query will be enabled, and otherwise, we will not make any calls. And check geodata, and we have latitude, or we will have inside our geodata, we'll have longitude. And also we can check that we have search query and make it enabled. So, and if we don't have search query or coordinates, then let's not end. Okay, and then our use query hook will be disabled, and now we need to provide our search query to our use weather hook, and let's do it. And I'm going to change it, and let's check what I have so far. Okay, I will have error. Okay, and I need to move this use state above my use fetch weather. Okay, and let's check what I have so far. And we have other error, some boolean, and let's check our use fetch weather. Okay, I need to convert string to boolean, and let's check again. Okay, we have our data, we don't have errors. I'm going to open network and provide city name Berlin and search, and we have weather for Berlin, and we have a request to weather API with city Berlin, and let's check for London. Okay, and we have data for London. Let's add forecast. Okay, and I'm going to use open my functions and change them. We need a second API call, and I'm going to use also Axios get, but we need a second URL for forecast, and let's check documentation. Okay, and for forecast we have API, and we can check these docs, and we'll make request to forecast endpoint. And, okay, and I need to change current to forecast. Okay, and here I can define const params, and I'll use the same params as for current weather params. I can just use object. Okay, and now because we have two requests, we can send them in parallel, and I'm going to use promise all and provide array of requests, and I need to move await here, and we'll wait response from two requests, and first request will be to weather, and the second will be to our forecast. I need to change URL here. Forecast. I have some error, and okay, I need close. Okay, and now we'll have two responses, and let's name first current, and the second forecast. Okay, and now we can return current weather to current data, and forecast data. Forecast will be forecast data. Okay, and we can copy paste this to fetch weather by coordinates. So we can remove this console logs, and so I can copy this, and I need to provide params and create const and sign. So we can remove this and delete comma. Okay, and we have our forecast, and let's check if what we have. I'm going to open network and refresh the page, and as you can see, we have request for weather and for forecast. We need to have some data, and we can check it what we have, and we have array of objects, and each object contains some data. And let's build JSX and add styles for forecast, and here we can add forecast and check, and I will add this JSX below current weather, and we'll check if we have forecast. Then we can provide some JSX. I need some container div, and close this div, and let's add some classes, and I'm going to make background blue and add 100, add some padding, and add rounded, and also add some shadow. Okay, and now we can add our h2 tag and change classes, and for classes I'm going to use text large and add font bold, and add margin for, and I'll have just forecast. And now we can add list, unordered list, and add class name, and add space for. And now we can get through our forecast. Let's use our forecast. And let's check what I have inside. Okay, we have a list. List is array, and we can use map, forecast, and list. And I'm going to use 5 first elements, and I'll add slice and make map. And for each forecast item, and also index, I'm going to provide JSX. And inside JSX, we'll have some I tag, and I need to provide key to it, index, and add class name, and class name will be some padding, and background white, and rounded large, and add some shadow and middle. Okay, and inside li tag I can provide paragraph and add some class name and make text large and define bold, bold, and let's add some data and check forecast. I need code forecast item, and let's check this item. And inside item we have data text. And let's try it. Okay, let's check what we have. I'm going to refresh page, and for now we don't have anything. And let's check, and I need to return JSX, not code. Okay, let's check again. Okay, we have our times, and we need to change to forecast. And let's add some degrees. I'm going to use this and provide some text like temp. Okay, and let's check where we have, and we have forecast item, and inside it we have, let's check forecast. Inside item we have main, and inside main we have temp. Okay, we have, and it should work. Let's check. Okay, we have our temperature, and actually we can remove this text, and let's add description, paragraph, and also paragraph, and add some text, and use the same value, I believe, but use forecast item and use the same value. Okay, let's check, and we have description, and let me provide city name and press search. Let's try to provide city that doesn't exist. Okay, and we have errors, and we can add search, and probably we can add some error messages to our code. And let's check what we have, and we can check if we have error, then we can provide JSX and add paragraph, and error means that we have error in geodata, and let's provide geo error. It will have error and message inside it, and I'm going to copy and use our loading API API. Let's check API error. And if we have our API error, then I'll provide API error message. Let's check again and try Berlin one. And we see that query tries to retry, and we have our error. Let's check again. And one more thing, when I make a request with the same parameter, I always got the response, but we can use our cache or stale data with use query, and let's change it. And I'm going to change our use query function and add here a value and define stale time, and add it probably 1 hour will be enough. And also we can add cache time for 1 hour and provide the value. And let's check again. I'm going to remove all this and refresh my page and provide city name as Berlin and search. Now I can provide London and search. Now I can provide Berlin again. And we have the same data for Berlin as previously, but the request was not made. And let's provide Paris. And we have a request. And let's provide London. And now we don't have a request. Okay, and let me close this panel and refresh the page and provide city name and change city. And everything is working, and that's all that I had for today. I'll add the links to source code and API. Thank you for watching. If you like the video, subscribe to my DevWebApp channel, like the video. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.